Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Think Future. I'm CK, and once again, we're coming at you live from deep in the heart of Silicon Valley, California. We're talking innovation startups, the future, not necessarily those, and not necessarily in that order. Smack that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube, and hit the bell. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast service, please subscribe and drop us a note on Apple Podcasts and let us know. Why am I saying us? It's just me. Why am I saying us? Let me know if you like the show. So lately I've been reading about Adlerian psychology. And Adler was one of these psychologists who was a giant in the field, Jung and Freud and Jung level giant in the field. And I've been reading an interesting book from them that took the Adlerian psychology and sort of morphed it into something new, but still allowed the underlying foundations of it to be clear. And the interesting piece there's so many interesting pieces to this, but the first one I read about was the etiology versus teleology argument. And I'll simplify it as, do you act the way you've always acted, or do you act towards the task you want to complete? So the etiology piece of it is, I've always done this, so I will continue to do this, right? We look into our pasts and we say, well, this is the kind of person I am. This is the kind of stuff that I like to do. This is when I want to relax, I just sit back and watch TV. I just go brain dead, I zone out, and that's what I do. But let's say this same person wants to improve their fitness, or wants to learn more, or wants to do something different in their life. Maybe they want to do a startup. Maybe they want to be an entrepreneur. Maybe they want to start a business. But they say, well, I'm not the kind of person who starts a business. I'm the kind of person who wants to sit back on a couch and just veg out after the day is done. But at the same time, you kind of want that business, right? So you're looking at your past and going, no, I'm not that kind of person. I'm not the entrepreneur type. I'm not the startup type. I'm the sit on the couch and do nothing type. And the reality is that in that moment where you make that decision, you are perpetuating the myth that you are the lie on the couch type, watching TV type. Just because you've done that in the past, just because this is your behavior in the past, in that moment, to do this thing, does not necessarily mean that you need to do the same thing in the future. So you see what I'm saying is that your past dictates your future, but you're allowing it to dictate your future, because you could simply change the task yourself by putting a little bit of your, I don't know if you want to call it willpower, or a little bit of your decision-making ability into it, and tune some of your energies differently and say, I'm not the person who just sits on the couch and veggies. I'm the person who watches videos on entrepreneurship. I'm the person who reads Entrepreneur Magazine. I'm the person who actually looks into business names and what I'm going to do, and look at what I love and see if I can turn it into a business and decide whether or not can I do this. Let's say I like to, I don't know, whittle gun stocks or something like that. Maybe I like to make hand-carved wooden gun stocks in my hobby, and maybe I'd like to sell those one day. Even though I'm the kind of guy who just sort of sits on the couch after a long, hard day and relaxes and watches TV, maybe I could be this other guy if I just disconnected myself from the etiology of my past and said, you know what, I don't necessarily need to be like that person anymore. I can be like this person. I can be more like the person I want to be. Goal-oriented versus past-oriented. I think that's what's happened, is that a lot of us fall into this past-oriented groove, or tram lines, as you might want to say, where we're basically stuck doing what we've done before because it's what we've always done. And in my last show, or a couple shows ago, I talked about how the best time to make those kind of changes in your life is when you're physically moved to another location. You get another job, you live in another town, you live in another city, you live in another country, you move, you're outside of where you were, because you tend to get stuck in these ruts when you're in the same place for a long time. But the reality is that you personally have the ability to disconnect from your past, because you can argue that the past does not matter. It does not exist, because what you've done in the past, you don't necessarily need to do in the future any longer. You can say to yourself, I'm not the kind of guy who sits on the couch. I'm the kind of guy who decides they want to be an entrepreneur. And you have to understand is that as soon as you make this kind of change in your life, you're going to come up against a lot of drag against this kind of change in your life, because everybody around you is used to you being just like that. This is one of the reasons why when you're within an organization and you're doing a job, everyone knows you for what you are. Everyone looks at your past etiologically and says, oh yeah, I know that guy. He is X or Y or something like that. I can never see them in this other role. That's why it's so difficult to transfer within an organization, because once you're there, they think that's all you can do. And it's the same in life. Once you're in the spot that you are, and your past is determining what you're going to do next, then you are stuck. And to unstick yourself, you have to make the conscious decision to go by task instead of past. Put the past, I'm not saying to eliminate the past completely. Obviously learn from the past, but don't let your past behavior dictate what you're going to be in the future if you want to make a change. And remember, when you start making these changes, everyone around you will have trouble with it. So there's a couple of things you can do. You can either make the hard choice, and actually both choices are hard choices. Go somewhere else, do something else, be somebody else, and just not let it bother you, or actually go somewhere else and do something else, be somebody else. Get rid of all your old friends and get new ones. All I'm trying to say is that change is hard. And one of the reasons why change is so hard is that we're all used to being in these ruts. They're so comfortable. They're so lazy. We can do what we've always done. And sometimes when you want to bring change in your life, that is not the way to do it. So look at your goal and look at your past and say, I don't necessarily need to be like I was before. That's it for me for today. See you next time. And until then, don't forget to think future.